Joining us on our webinar, we have high school panelists David Bissonnette, Peter Noss, and Maeve Roche. Many of us have become active in the pro-life movement during high school. I know I did, Josie did as well, and many of you here are high school students yourselves. So we wanted to give students the opportunity to describe their experiences, and we're going to start off with some questions of our own. But please feel free to start putting your questions that you might want to ask the panelists in the chat right now. Like I said, my pro-life involvement began in high school when I would attend the March for Life in Ottawa with my chaplaincy group or with my parish community. When I was there, I also attended the CLC banquet and youth conference, and I signed up for CLC Youth's email blasts. Then I found out about the internship and applied, and I've been involved with the CLC ever since. So, panelists, can you just briefly introduce yourself and describe how you've been involved in the pro-life movement? And Peter, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Can you guys hear me? Perfect. Okay. So I've been pro-life my entire life. I've been to 10 different marches. It was actually my cousin James Schadenberg who did the CLC internship when I was in grade 7 and in grade 8. And then by the time I got to grade 9, I was like, hey, this guy actually does some fun stuff. Apply and see if I get it. And I did get it. And I did it for 2 years in 2018, 2019. And it was a blast. It was so much fun. I've met all these fantastic people that you've seen throughout this presentation. I got to do choice chains, show the truth. We did a bunch of volunteering for the March for Life. That was a lot of fun. But on a more personal level, just me individually, I've been able to do a meme page for one of the CLC endorsed candidates that's running in this leadership election. Unfortunately, he was disqualified, but he's in court right now. His name is Jim Carhalios. And yeah, that's basically the extent of my pro-life involvement.
Thanks, Peter. Next, we have Maeve.
Hi everyone. So I'm currently a grade 12 student. So I've been pro-life all of my life, and it initially started through my Catholic upbringing. So how I got involved with CLC was I started contacting Josie since my dad actually knew some of the pro-life leaders through his education system. So I contacted Josie and we initially started talking online, and I actually went to the March for Life in Washington this year. So that was my first time attending the American March for Life, so it was pretty exciting. And then I applied for the internship, and that's when it all kind of started. Obviously, this year we're most likely unable to have the internship because of the coronavirus, but it would have been a great opportunity. And I just think that it's really important to just get involved and contact your pro-life groups in your area, whether it's CLC or a different group, and it's really going to help form a community. So
just to encourage you, Maeve, it's still possible. We don't know yet. We'll have to wait to see what the government.
hopefully, fingers crossed.
Go ahead, David.
Hi, I'm David Bissonnette. I'm a grade 12 student at a small, or actually mediocre size, high school in Brantford. I was fortunate enough to be born and raised in a Catholic family and am a strong advocate for the pro-life cause at my school. Fortunately, my dad teaches at the school I attend, and so for me, that kind of has made me a poster child for it in my school. And I've also attended the March for Life every year and Show the Truth, which is an organization where we show graphic images on the side of the road just so that people can understand the ugliness of what abortion actually is.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. You all have different backgrounds in the sense that David and Maeve, you actually attend a physical high school, but Peter, you do high school online from your home. So you have also different personalities and again, different interests and so forth. So I was wondering, what is it like for you to be pro-life? How do your peers respond to you, etc.? Maybe we want to start with Maeve.
Yeah, sure. So, personally, I go to a Catholic school, but despite the school being Catholic, they're not super supportive of the pro-life movement. So it's definitely hard to speak out, especially within my school community. Um, but just speaking out on social medias and advocating for the pro-life movement is very important, regardless of any negative feedback you would get from your peers. So,
Um, David, did you want to also respond?
Yeah, I often get comments on how I am pro-life and how they disagree with me. One of the major things that I try to promote is not only the love I have for the babies, but also for the women who are put in that situation because it is difficult. I do know a few of my peers at my high school that have gotten pregnant as teens, and it is difficult. But one of the main things that I try to support in my school is the love for the women and the support that they should have.
Perfectly put. Perfectly put, David. Peter, what is it like being pro-life as someone who is homeschooled? Obviously, you don't face necessarily the same like day-to-day like persecution by high school teachers, but I know that still do face obstacles.
Yes, absolutely. So I I do attend, despite the popular opinion on homeschooling, I do actually attend an online high school called the Virtual Learning Center. And we have a school chat where there have been countless debates on all of the different topics on politics, abortion, euthanasia, free market capitalism. We had all the debates you can possibly think of. And to extend on what David said, yeah, like the most important thing is definitely to like be nice, make friends, um, even if you're having a hard time relating to the person because you don't see them in person, they are still people, and that's something that I definitely feel I need to apply more in online discussion about pro life issues. But yeah, about homeschooling in general, we tried to start a pro life club, and it got shut down by our principal. So we're thinking of ways to still spread the pro life message because there are lots of pro choice homeschoolers. That's also a break in the norm or the stereotype of homeschoolers that they're all these Catholic, weird people. But no, there are some really good people who are homeschooled. Yeah, it's really fun sharing that pro life message.
Awesome.
Thank you. Do your pro-life beliefs play any role in your future plans for post-secondary school or just the future in general? Maeve, can we start with you?
yeah, so I applied to social sciences at U of T and I got in. So that's where I'm going for my undergrad at least. And I want to major in philosophy or theology. So it's not necessarily just a pro-life path, but I definitely that's going to be a large part of my life, and I want to pursue some sort of um, path involving the advocacy for the pro-life movement. So.
Great, thank you. Peter?
Absolutely. So I am planning on attending college in the fall, and I'm going to a very small Catholic college in Barry's Bay, Ontario. And I'm going to really analyze how pro-life issues affect us as individuals and as a community and as a society. And they offer a couple of courses on political science. I hope I might get a chance to take those, but I'll have to see. But they also offer courses on Christian doctrine and philosophy and theology and all that good stuff, logic. And those courses can be applied in your everyday life. They can help you to be more kind to people, but also they they point out some of the fallacies in the pro-choice argument. So yeah, that's and like to extend on the actual question itself, I do plan on like at some point trying to run in politics to promote the pro-life message, but it's how to go about doing that is the big question, and when and where. yeah.
Perfect. David, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. Coincidentally, I am also attending the same high school or college that Peter Nas is attending. Our Lady Seat of Wisdom. It's up in Barry's Bay. Definitely recommend it to anyone who's considering it. I am attending that just to kind of further my roots in the pro-life community and even the Catholic community. Although my overall plan is to become an electrician, which isn't really connected to the pro-life cause, but yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would definitely plug Our Lady Seat of Wisdom College now, used to be Academy. They are one of the few colleges and universities where the administration itself is pro-life. Shania and I went to secular universities, and it's the opposite. It's where all the professors that you have, like, it's rare when you get a pro-life one. So that's hard, and it's really good to get formation from a school that shares your values. So kudos on you. You guys get to hang out next year. One of the questions we got was how you specifically, David and Peter, respond to people who say you're a man, you can't have an opinion. And I know I kind of addressed this earlier, but I'm not a man, so how do you personally address it when it gets brought up?
Personally, what I normally my fallback for that is identity politics, and I normally do not agree with this at all. One of the major examples that I use is that when Black people were slaves, lots of the people advocating for that were white men who cannot very much relate. So obviously, I'm not a woman and I'm not a baby in the uterus, but I can have an opinion on that.
Excellent point. Peter, did you have anything to add to that?
Absolutely. This is like my absolute favorite criticism that I get. It's one that pro-choicers use all the time, especially when we're doing the show The Truth. And the main way to debunk this is that our motivation is purely self-sacrifice in this. Like it doesn't help to be a pro-life man in any way. Like we don't gain anything from being pro-life. We're there to save lives, and that's a ton of fun. But also, every abolitionist movement, whether it be slavery or what have you, they all try to keep the movement that's advocating for human rights silent. The South always tried to keep the North silent, that they wanted to have the freedom to run their own slave cotton yards and stuff, and that's unjust, and we have to stand up for our beliefs that all humans deserve human rights.
Excellent.
Perfect. We have another question in the chat. It says, what situation in your life made you choose to be pro-life? Could we start with you? Maeve.
Yeah, what was the question? Sorry.
It's okay.
Cut out there.
What situation in your life made you choose to be pro-life?
I think it was an accumulation of things, but yeah, I think I've always just been pro-life, and it's always just been a part of my life, and it's been an issue that's always concerned me. So it wasn't a specific event in my life, but I've just really yeah, it's really deeply affected me, and it's been something that I'm extremely passionate about, and I can't really pin it on one thing. So
David?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Maeve Roach here. For me, it hasn't been one huge conversion. It's just been many affirmations along the way, whether it be like a friend getting pregnant and having to have a baby or rather than abort it, or even like with my nephew when my sister got pregnant. Yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. Peter, do you have anything to add?
So I have been pro-life from the cradle, it is true. But But I started to focus more on being actively pro-life because there's definitely something there's definitely a divide between people who are like, oh yeah, I'm pro-life, but I'm okay with abortion in certain circumstances, like rape or whatever. And then there's definitely the people who are more passionate about the issue. And I got a lot more passionate about the issue when I started studying other human rights violations in the past and just all of their parallels to this human rights violation in grade 7, 8, and 9.
Thanks. We have another question that says, how do I talk to someone who has already had an abortion? How do I say it's wrong without bringing shame to them? That's a big one. I don't know if Josie also wants to chime in for that one as well.
Go ahead, David. Go ahead.
Well, I would definitely start off with saying that we do love and appreciate this person rather than judging them. We're here to help because there's a lot of healing that has to happen before they realize that what they did is wrong. Shame is definitely not the way to go for anyone in that situation. Although I would also highlight that it was a baby and it is a human being and they deserve rights as well as the women.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, David. Maeve, do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to mention one thing. So obviously you'd want to come from a place of compassion, and I completely agree with David. But also yesterday during the rally, Stephanie Gray mentioned her book, Love Unleashes Life. And I just think remembering that you have to come from a place of love and compassion is the most important part of approaching someone who's had an abortion. So
Peter, any thoughts?
Yeah, just to extend on what David and Maeve said, if you can, try to make them feel like they belong, like recognize them that they're human. We all make mistakes, and it's okay to acknowledge those mistakes and move past them. Like I've met a lot of women who are really angry because they have had abortions, and that's a really difficult process to go through. Absolutely. So, yeah, that's all I have to add.
What I love about all of you is that you're mature beyond your years. Like I don't even think that I would have had the words to express what you guys just did when I was in high school. So I commend you for that. And in a way, honestly, in a way, with a high school student panel, I wanted to convey to people that like you should still be involved in this issue, like even if you are not as educated, even if you're just getting involved. But really, I don't think I've been conveying that because these people right here in front of me sound like they've been in the movement for decades already. So I commend you for that. Another question we had, and it's a little bit longer one, was how to handle the large, uncontrolled debates that sometimes spark at the questioner's school. There are times when something is said that causes a chaotic conversation. What can I do to try to calm down something like that, or organize it better so that people aren't offended and an abortion debate isn't looked at as purely chaotic and untouchable? And before I ask you all, I just want to relate to that because that's happened to me multiple times in school and in my friends groups where the moment the topic gets brought up and I start to voice my opinion, it gets shut down. It's like, we can't have this in a civilized manner, so we're not going to have this conversation at all. So it's a very good question. I don't know, David, Maeve, or Peter, I know this might require a little bit of reflection, but does anyone have any like initial thoughts to how they can try to organize that so the conversation is possible?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that studies show that the quieter you talk, though it sounds unlikely, people are more likely to listen. Having it become a yelling contest is definitely not the way to go for any debate. Although also looking like you are looking at it from a mature point of view is very important rather than getting emotions involved.
Maeve or Peter, do you have anything to add?
yeah, I just think coming from a place of love, and if you show that you're calm and you're not driven from emotions, then it will cause more chaos and feeding into what the opposing debaters are saying to you, and taking it personally doesn't help either. So I think it's just realizing that your position is very controversial is going to be it's going to be difficult to get through to people, but when you're speaking from a place of love and compassion for the other side, I think that helps to bring people together. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Extend on what David and Maeve said. You definitely want to hold on, what was the question again? Because I lost it.
When there's a really like crazy debate on abortion, especially if there's a lot of like different voices chiming in, how is it that you can have a calm debate, not just be people like yelling at each other and so forth?
Right, this is a really important question. So you have to, like, number one, stay calm. If you ever are in a situation where like somebody's yelling at you or you're losing a debate, just stay calm, take a deep breath. You don't have to respond right away. Talk slower. I always start speaking too fast and I always make mistakes when I do. So definitely just like take a deep breath. Um, as far as like organizing a space where you can have a reasonable discussion on abortion or euthanasia, you definitely want to have structure where there's going to be respect for both sides. So if that takes form and one side gets 2 minutes and then another side gets 2 minutes, then by all means do that. But you really want to ensure that there's a strong level of respect for the other human being in any debate that you have.
Yes. Okay, another question. One of the attendees asked, some of his brothers are in junior high. One of them is particularly outspoken on being pro-life. What has been your experience when you were younger, maybe grade 9, 10, 11, high school, or even elementary school? When you were pro-life, what advice would you have specifically for those students who are maybe not grade 12 like yourselves, and perhaps face opposition? I know the debate certainly changed for me because I talked about it in elementary school, and I think there was less of an ability to do so than when I was in high school. David, did you want to take that one?
Yeah,
I know
sure.
you started really, really young. Really young.
Yeah.
I remember doing Show the Truth with you when you were like 13 years old. So you would know that, I think, better than a lot of people.
Yeah, and also like I go to a school where my dad is already a teacher and he's a huge advocate for the pro-life cause. So when I went the first time in grade 9, I would have grade 12s approaching me and telling me that my opinion was wrong. But one of the most important things when you are young is to hold your ground and not cave in. It's extremely easy to just be like, stay quiet about the cause, but the truth needs to be told, and especially when there's such great odds at stake, especially many lives. Lots of these people that you do go to school with are probably going to have an abortion at one point in their life. But you can change that on a personal level, whether you on what you say to them now.
Yep, you're right. Keeping that into context is crucial. Peter, do you have anything to contribute to that question?
So like as a young person in the pro-life movement, the best way to learn is to do. So if you do have pro-life discussions, even with your family, or if you have any questions about, at what point does like a fetus heartbeat start, or like just learn as much as you can about the pro-life issue. Learn all the different debates, all the different points that pro-choicers will bring up, or pro-abortion people will bring up to you. And if you can like get a friend that is in grade 12 to mentor you through being pro-life, and that's really awesome. Like I had James Schadenberg. He was amazing. He helped me on so many of my school debates and stuff, and that's a big help for sure. Somebody to like confide in, somebody who's going to be your friend. Somebody where if you do make a mistake in a debate, will say that's okay. You'll do better next time for sure. That helps.
Yeah, there's so many older pro-lifers who are more than willing to answer your questions. If it was like, how do I respond to this person on social media or whatever, like we've been through all those experiences, and like if we can make something of them to help you out, we'd love to do that. Maeve, is there anything you wanted to say on that question?
Yeah, my
I know
biggest
that you've got it.
advice, I think, is to just educate yourself. So get involved, whether it's reading, um, learning from older peers, or watching YouTube videos about apologetics. I think like just educating yourself first and foremost can help you to respond better, regardless of your age. So that's what I would say.
Awesome.
This question is for Peter specifically. How has your way of arguing and presenting changed from before the internship to after? And how have you grown from the CLC internship?
Wow, that's a big question. So before I started the internship, I didn't do a lot of debating online or anything really with any other people. But after the internship, I definitely knew a lot of different things about the pro-life movement because we'd had lots of different seminars explaining the different pro-life and pro-choice arguments, and we had like very concrete ways of doing that. Like every Tuesday or whatever, we would do choice chains, and you don't have to be an intern to do these choice chains. You can sign up. You can ask CLC when's the next. They're not called choice chains. They're called show the truth. So the things that we did with TAA.
Question?
Oh, they are choice chain.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, like there's every lunch hour on Tuesdays, we would just spend an hour outside Ryerson or outside a U of T campus. But those are all over Toronto. Like I know that George Brown has them too, and you can be a high school student and go to these, and they're a lot of fun because you learn a lot about the pro-life movement and pro-life apologetics. But also, it's a good way to represent the pro-life movement and debate, and it's good.
I think it's very scary before it gets fun, but you're right that that's one of the best ways to learn.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Our last question is going to be, if I'm shut down in an argument by someone in authority, example, a teacher or a principal, is it more effective to keep silent and soldier on or to challenge them? And what factors can change this? Maeve, could you start us off?
Yeah, so it's a hard one because it depends on the circumstance, I think. But when you say shut down, if you mean that you've run out of like argumentative points on how to like respond to the teacher who's shut you down, then I think just yeah, probably just staying silent at that point if you don't have a response to give would be the best way. But if it's just that the teacher's becoming, they're kind of like teaming up on you or becoming aggressive in that sense that you feel overpowered. I think just remaining calm and standing your ground and just coming from a place of love and compassion towards that person is probably the best way to respond. But yeah, I think it's circumstantial, so it's hard to answer that one. So
Thanks, David.
Well, for me, I normally challenge the teacher. I do not like being shut down when it comes to those things because it needs to be said and there's a lot at stake. So if it does get to like the principal level or something like that, just know that you do have the or the parent council, or I don't know exactly what it's called. But not everything is in the hands of the teachers at some points. We as the students and as the taxpayer also carry power in that situation. So you don't necessarily have to just stop immediately.
Great, thank you. And Peter, do you have anything to add?
So it really depends on what you mean by shut down. Like, for example, when we wanted to have our pro-life movement in the school and we were shut down, we decided to do it outside of the school, but in another school chat that wasn't associated with the school, and just invite random people. So we did it on Discord. And you can still have very productive arguments. but to be more direct, like if your teacher, for example, there was in my history class, like I wanted to talk about the some pro-life issues that had to do with one of the Canadian pro-life politicians, and I forgot who it was. And he kind of said like no. One of the ways we actually went around that, I decided to email my fellow students and just like say, does anybody want to talk about this after class or whatever, and that worked. Now that this is an online school, so it might be kind of odd if you're in a brick and mortar school and you say, hey guys, does anybody want to email me or message me to talk about this issue? So if you wanted to do it outside of school hours, just meet up with some of your friends or your political opponents or whatever, then you can invite people to do that in other ways, for sure.
Well, I'd like to give a final thank you to all of our high school panelists